Hello, you beautiful beings. Let's talk about 5 signs that you are walking the path that your soul intended for this life. Now, first and foremost, I just want to say it's truly normal for all of us to doubt and question from time to time, like, is this really what my soul planned for this life? Is this really what I intended? Is this my path? So if you're out there and you're having those questions, just know that that's normal and that's natural. Also, know that if any of these signs, any of the 5 resonate with you, then you are doing an amazing and incredible job in walking this path, which, granted, you guys, here on earth, it is not always an easy path. It is almost never an easy path. But if you are doing any of these 5 things, then I assure you that you are walking the path of your soul. And if you are doing multiple of the 5, then you are killing it. Like, truly, you are killing it. So let's begin. Okay, number 1. If you are actively learning, like you're really learning a lot, and you have this feeling like, oh my gosh, like I'm expanding my wisdom so much, and you keep thinking to yourself like, wow, like how did I go my whole life like without realizing this? How did I like manage to live all these years without knowing this thing? And like you're feeling that sense of like excitement about what you're learning, and you're just feeling like, you know, this, like your wisdom is expanding. And it is my understanding in the spirit world that the light that people report, you know, like, oh, like I see this being, and if you listen to NDEs and stuff like that, like, oh, I see this being and they have so much light, that light is the light of wisdom. So if you're expanding your wisdom, if you're excited about what you're learning right now, that's a really good indication that your light is expanding and that you are on the path that your soul intended. Number 2 is that right now you are actively implementing the things that you recently learned. In other words, you've recently gone through a time of expanding your wisdom and studying and learning. And when I say studying, I don't necessarily mean like at university or at work. I just mean that you were like a little sponge and you just came to see things like in a new way. And whatever it is that you recently learned, you are currently implementing or currently practicing. So you are kind of implementing something new that you've recently learned, and you are allowing it to inform your actions in a grounded and centered way. So for example, maybe you recently, maybe through the hard knocks of life or other ways, maybe you recently learned about like what it really means to communicate in an honest way, and how to be more truthful in life. And maybe right now, every day, even when it's hard, you're practicing communicating honestly with your friends, with your family. When people ask you questions, instead of lying to appease them or save face, you're actually responding in an honest way. That would be an example of implementing what you've recently learned. So if you recently went through a time and it was like, wow, like, oh my gosh, like my mind is blown, like, wow, I can't believe I went my whole life without knowing this, and you learned, and now you're sort of practicing what you learned in your everyday life, this is a really, 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 really good sign you're on the right path. You know, in between lives, when we're in the spirit world, we actually do study like a lot of soul sensibilities, like what it means to live in love and what it means to live in honor. And we work on our gifts and abilities at the level of the soul. And what coming to earth actually is this is like our laboratory where we practice what we learned. We practice our gifts, our abilities, and our sensibilities of the soul here in our human bodies, where it's like really hard and it's really challenging. But if you find yourself practicing what you've recently learned or remembered, and you're doing it every day and you're implementing it in your everyday life, you are on your soul's intended path. Now, number 3 is that right now you are actively pursuing a vision that you've held for most of your life. So, for example, maybe you were shy, maybe as a little boy you were shy, but you always wished that you could play football and be on the football team. You never were, and now you're an adult man and there's an intramural football team through your local YMCA, and you just signed up, and for the first time in your life you're playing football or you're coaching your kids' football team. This would be an example. There's so many examples. Maybe, it was always your dream to have a little bakery, but your parents wanted you to have a solid, secure job, so you became a lawyer. And now in your life, you went on Skillshare and you learned about how to create your own website, and you recently opened your own website, and on Saturdays you are baking cupcakes and you're selling them and delivering them in your community. In other words, like right now, you are actively pursuing a vision that was kind of always in your heart, like from the time that you were real little. Maybe you're still little, or maybe you're fully grown. I feel like we're all little, at the level of the soul, like we're all so pure and innocent. But if you're pursuing a vision that's been on your heart for a really long time and you're doing it now, that's a really good sign that you are on your soul's highest path. I was only about like 4 or 5 years old. This is actually really synchronistic, but like the first time that I ever met a psychic, which was kind of just at one of those like art fairs. And she actually did like a little reading for me. But as soon as I saw her, it like sparked something in my subconscious, like a memory. And I knew, even though I never said it, I never ever said it, it wouldn't have been okay to say to anyone in my family. Like at that moment, at 4 or 5 years old, I knew like one day I want to help people. Like that woman is helping people. Like one day I want to do my own readings and all of this. And it was in my heart forever. And it was about 20 years that I just held that in my heart before I had the courage to do my first reading. And I don't know, but something on that day I just knew, even though I was scared, really scared, I was like, okay, I know now, like I'm actively living the intentions of my soul. So if you are pursuing that vision that's like been in your heart for such a long time, know that you are walking the path of your soul. By the way, if you're not doing any of these things, by doing any of these things, you can kind of get back on track. Okay, so number 4, you are actively utilizing your gifts and talents in service of other people in a way that is not draining to you, but in a way that is fulfilling to you. Now, why do I say that? Well, sometimes some of us realize, oh my gosh, I have this gift. Maybe I'm an empath, or I'm a musician, or it could be any number of things. There are so many gifts. And then we realize we have a gift, and then we overdo it, to the point where it's like, okay, I'm an empath, so I show compassion to this person and this person and this person. And at the end of the day, I'm just exhausted and I'm just drained and I'm just depleted. Now that can be a sign that, maybe it's time for some R&R. But if you are utilizing your gifts and talents, let's say, for example, that you just are blessed and from a young age, or even any age. Like, you just learned that you can play the piano and it's just so natural, and you just, all these tunes are just like so good. And currently maybe you're an accountant, or currently maybe you're a school teacher, but maybe once a month you go to the elderly care facility and you just play on the piano all afternoon while the people just dance around, and it just brings you so much joy, and it just brings you so much satisfaction. So you're using your gifts. It doesn't have to be your job, but like, you're using your gifts like every day in service of others in a way that brings energy to you. Another example of this would be, I wish this were the case for me. I guess it is a little, but not as much as I want. But like, let's say, for example, that like you are kind of like an animal whisperer, and you just have your way with just cats and dogs, and they just love you, and you can just tell they just relax and when they're around you, and it's just a wonderful mutual exchange. And maybe as part of your life, like after work or in between your studies, maybe you go to the Humane Society and you interact with the animals. Like, you have this gift for interacting with animals. You're doing it and it makes you feel good. It makes the animals feel good. That's another example. But any way that you're taking a gift that you've been given or that you were naturally born with, and you're utilizing it to serve others, and you're feeling that sort of like reciprocity, like you feel really good about serving others, then that is an indication that you are living and walking the path of your soul. Now, the final one, and by the way, there could be others, but these are the ones that the guides alerted me to when I sat down to make the notes for this video. So the final one is that right now you are actively overcoming a challenge that you have struggled with all of your life, or that you've struggled with for a very long time. So maybe, for example, you struggled for a very long time with your spending or with your finances. Maybe, every time that you get in kind of a down place, you try to spend money to feel better. And, throughout your life, you acquired a bunch of debt or ended up owing a bunch of people money, or all of this kind of stuff. And maybe right now, for the first time in your life, you're following a budget and you're saving money and you're becoming financially independent. That would be an example. Or any other challenge, anything that made you afraid. So say, for example, you really struggled. I know this can be the case for a lot of people. Like, you really struggled with speaking or public speaking in a way that's impacted your ability to show up for friends and family. Maybe you were invited to give a speech at a wedding and you've always wanted to, and you just never could. And so all those opportunities pass you by, and at work, you're not getting the promotion because you can't do the presentation that's required, or all these kinds of things. And you always let your fear control you. But right now you're doing Toastmasters or something like that, and you're learning, how to become empowered in your public speaking. Or any other thing. Maybe like you were scared as a kid to learn to swim, and now you're enrolled in a swim class, and for the first time, even though it's just a little, you're getting in the water and you're learning how to swim. And for the first time soon, you're gonna be going to the lake with your family, and you're gonna get in the water and you're gonna swim a little bit. Whatever it is, like, if you are actively overcoming a challenge that you'd been struggling with for a long time, this is a huge indication that you are killing it. You are just doing a great job, like, at the level of the soul. So again, the 5 things. One is, right now you're learning a lot, and it's really valuable information that you plan to implement very soon. Number 2 is that you're currently implementing what you just learned into your everyday life, in a way that makes you proud of who you are, that makes you feel like, yes, I'm progressing. Yes, I'm becoming a better person. Number 3, you are actively pursuing or living a vision that you've held for your life in a big way or a small way. You're actively working toward that dream, or, living the dream, I guess. You're actively living the dream. Number 4 was that you're utilizing your natural gifts and talents in service of others, and that could be people, animals, plants, in service of others in a way that also helps you to feel a sense of deep satisfaction. And the final one is number 5, was that you're actively overcoming some kind of challenge that you struggled with over the long term, and you're making progress in that way. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. It is always a pleasure to have you here and connect with you. If anybody's interested in a reading, I'll put the details below. And I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for the interest, the comments, everything. It's an honor to share this time with you when you watch. Many blessings to all of you out there. May you find yourself walking your soul's highest path, and may you feel deep satisfaction every day as you align with the pathway of your soul. Thanks again for watching, and namaste.